Hello everyone, welcome to Module 4, Session 5, Understanding Gastrol's Principles, Proximity and Pregnance, Part 1. So let's dive in. In our previous session, as you can see in the slide, we have talked about continuity and why continuity are an integral part of any kind of compositions and how we as a visual designer should take consideration of continuity in overall design, right? So we also look into multiple case study how the continuity can be implemented and has been implemented in the idea of any kind of visual compositions that includes print publication, product design, branding, and marketing, logo design. So those all are considered how the idea of continuity can impact in the overall composition. So today we will focus on the proximity in this session. So this session is divided into two segments, part 1 and part 2. So in part 1 we'll focus on proximity, and in part 2 we'll focus on pregnance. So we'll start with proximity now. So proximity, principle of proximity, here it states that object that are close to each other are perceived as a group regardless of their individual characteristic. This principle highlights how spatial relationship influence our perception, enabling us to organize and interpret visual elements based on their nearness to one another. So if you see in this picture, you will automatically group this set of pencils together and this set of pencils together, and this to be excluded in any other group. And this is happening primarily because these are close to each other. These three pencils are close to each other. Similarly here and here. So within this, so maybe you have also considered this as an overall group, but again, while looking into this, you might also consider this as a subgroup, this as a subgroup, and one this as a which is not included in both the groups. So proximity works in that way, like how our brain quickly creates perception regarding grouping based on the closeness or nearness of that particular object or element. So in India, you will see such kind of roadside vendors giving stalls, and this is one of the pictures where you can easily see some of the snacks which they are providing, right? And in this picture, again, based on the size, right, again, and the grouping, you will always associate this segment to be in a similar group. The segment which are associated in the jars are again is another group. Again here in the background of this below it, right, you can see different packets available of snacks. Again, you will create a grouping in that way. Primarily, again, when you see this picture, the sense of grouping is already being projected by the vendor such that you can easily highlight, or you can get used to the idea of different snacks. So proximity plays an important role in defining relationship and hierarchies within a composition, guiding the viewer's focus and helping them to understand the intent, meaning, or functionality of a design effortlessly. So this is very important segment which we are trying to discuss is like how using proximity you are also trying to create some kind of visual relationship in the overall composition. And this is very important for a designer to take into consideration while he or she is going to compose any kind of composition based on the context, and how the idea of hierarchy is being addressed while composing the overall information. So basically the idea of information flow, how you are trying to navigate the users through your compositions. So as we have divided the overall proximity into different segments. The first segment is grouping in design layouts. So we'll see how this work and how it impacts the composition. So in this image on the right, you can see multiple circles, right, which are black in color. And based on the arrangement, your brain has quickly perceived that these three circles are in one group, and this four are in one group, right? And now, if we change the arrangement of one of the circle from this face to here, automatically again your brain will perceive that this is one group, right? These three circles falls under one group and this under the other group. So again, these are very interesting how our brain quickly creates that segregation, irrespective of how you are narrating the story. So based on the visual representation, it impacts a lot in terms of how we perceive. Similarly, these are different shapes which are clubbed in one segment, and now it feels like they are in one group. Again, within this group, based on again shapes and sizes, you might also create subgroups like the stars are together, the squares are together, right? The circles and the pentagons, everything are like together. So now suddenly if we divide that, right, in terms of like the spacing, again the closeness, right, the closeness of each other, then again there is a segregation here. So within that segregation you will again confine this segment to be in one group, this to be in other group. And why we are doing this is again, this exercise is to make you understand like how we are good in dividing or creating segregation, although there may be changes in terms of shapes, sizes and all, but because of this segregation, because of the closeness of each other elements, it's very much easier for us to divided. And this primarily works in any type of composition. That's what I'm trying to incline towards. So if you do any kind of visual combination, maybe it has text, it has shapes, it has figures, and you are aligning and you are creating some kind of closeness within that elements, right, somewhere or the other, it becomes easier for any kind of users to understand how you want to or where you are trying to group. And we'll see how this impacts with different examples. So first example is this screenshot which was taken in the early part, and here you can see how the proximity is happening. Okay, and without any kind of, I would say, direct disclosure of any lines. But since the elements are grouped in such a way that you automatically tend to incline towards how the overall layout is designed. So here you can see this is the laptop, right? And is the version which it's trying to showcase. And again with the technology M1, M2, right? And these are Pro segments, right? Pro 13, Pro 14, and Pro 16. And within that, you can easily see, because the content are directly grouped in a vertical way, and within that the idea of the details, so my brain will automatically figure key, okay, this is the overall informations about this website. Apart from that, these are the other details which is trying to show based on this detail. So MacBook Air, under MacBook Air M1 chip, these are the features, these are the benefits you are going to have. Similarly here in under M2 chip, these are the benefits you are going to here have, right? Imagine again, there's a very interesting composition here is the line. The line is purposely broken to emphasize the idea of proximity. Imagine the line is continuous. It will have been very difficult for the users to perceive this segment, to connect with this. Okay, just by small gap within these lines, it enables the idea of proximity within these segments. So it automatically help us or navigate us to highlight the overall segment. So we can easily see there are four segments, and within that four segment these are the primary details, and then if you want to go in depth, so you can see here rest of the features which are associated to this. So this is how the idea of proximity plays, especially in UI, and we'll have another example here. This is the landing page of the Apple's website in India, and you can see how the layout has been arranged in such a way that it feels a sense of group in each of the segments, right? So the group in terms of the menu, right? So menu bar, if you see here, right, again the background is also helping that, so there is a strong difference between both of the background, right? So a light gray has been utilized to highlight the menu, and you can see how, because the details are being close to each other, you will consider this segment as one group. Okay, and then when you go towards the lower segment, right, you will read store the best way to buy the products you love, right? Again, within that segment there are different groups. So the group is again happening in terms of shapes and how they are aligned. So again, there are multiple products associated to this, and that's why you tend to perceive this segment as a group with more detail. Okay, imagine there was only one product showed, right? And then you might see, okay, there is only one product which they want, that this details will be available. But purposely they have added multiple products such that you know that this, if I click here, I will go to the range of iPhones. It's not just one iPhone, right? Again, I will go to here, in here, I will go to the overall range of the iPad which are available under Mac. Similarly, rest of the elements. So this is again playing an important role in terms of the proximity which we are discussing, right? And how the layout in design plays an important role to project that. And because of this, it's easier for me to understand how the overall informations are categorized, and this leads to the overall hierarchy in the information flow. Okay, so now let's see how text and typography under proximity can be looked into. And this is again a screenshot taken from the book Fundamentals of Typography, and this is the table of contents section, right? And in terms of the layout, it's very unique in nature how the table of contents has been divided into three columns. So in print and publication, you will definitely learn the idea of grids and layout, and within that, how grids and layout helps to create the sense of proximity is another interesting thing. So here you can see the overall page has been divided into three segments, and that's happening because of the column. So this overall page has been considered in terms of having three column grid. So this is one column, this is the other, and this is the third. And within that, again, the idea of segregation is happening because of this empty space which you can see under the idea of proximity. And automatically, if you read one, you are not going directly to two, you will go through the details which are available, right? The pages which they have highlighted in terms of the chapters, right? And apart from that, again, you will come here. So your information flow in terms of hierarchy, again, it's happening because of the proximity. So you will initially start with this detail, right? And you will go from top to bottom, and then you will again go to top and you will continue, and similarly it will have this flow. So the sense of hierarchy in terms of information flow is happening due to the idea of the columns, and this again is inclining towards the representation of proximity using text and typography. Yes, so again, as previously we have also talked about continuity, right? So as I said, in any kind of design principles, you will encounter multiple principles associated to that composition. Only you as a designer have to understand how it's happening and where it's happening. And based on that, you can also address such kind of principles for better explanation or better information flow. So here again, this is another screenshot from the overall page, and you can see how the proximity is trying to address here in terms of how we read the overall page, right? So here the first, as we read from top to bottom, right, we'll go through this, and these are highlighted using a background. Again, the idea of contrast is happening here within that, and you can see how we'll start reading this, then there is a gap, right, there is empty space, so we'll group this segment as a header, okay, because we are looking this in terms of highlights, so we'll consider this header. So the case study is the topic which we are looking, right, and within that case study is the area we are looking. The topic is this, right, Lonsdale Boys Club is the topic where we will look into that case study which they are trying to talk, right? And in that again, this segment where the typeface is quite comparatively, the type size is comparatively bigger. Again, the line spacing is a little bit bigger, larger in that way. So in this segment, again, you will group this portion in one way of representing. So this becomes another segment. Now suddenly, because of the two column grids, you will also associate this segment in one group overall because of the size. Again, that's because of the size of the typeface. You will definitely try to group it within one segment. Again, if you see the illustrations, right, this overall illustrations can be grouped together, and here is the another representation, and this is happening purely on how the things are being arranged as a layout, and how the way of typeface has been addressed in the overall composition. So this is how again the idea of proximity plays into and helps us to navigate over the information in terms of groups. And this also enables us to consume the information in segments, which also is what the hierarchy is about. Yes, so this is another interesting example where you can see how different typefaces has been incorporated, right? And this is where you can see different variations of typeface. So some are serif, some are sans serif, right? Again, within serif, there are the bolder versions of it, and there are light and regular versions which are associated to that. And this is again overall invitation created by Metro for an exhibition by Contemporary Design, a manufacturing company established and Son. It features several change in font size and style, and distinctive headlines. Font creates a clear sense of hierarchy. As I said, proximity is always associated to hierarchy, and you can see how your dominance of visual dominance is quite here. So your eyes goes here, right? So once you are engaged in this, you will go through this details, and gradually again you might go in the up and to understand more about the overall event. And the again the change in color also highlights the overall information. So since the overall content is in white, suddenly there is a contrast in this segment. So again, this is the brand name which they are trying to highlight, right? And with this again, there are different way how you perceive the overall composition, and this is purely happening in terms of the sizes, and because of that size, the idea of proximity is also getting enabled. Okay. Yes, so this is another example how the idea of proximity again is explored in the world of infographics and data visualization. So this is done by one of the BDES students, Jane of Department of Design, IIT Hyderabad, and this shows the overall road network in India. So classification and distribution of road network in India, and you can see how the proximity is playing an important role in terms of information. So here overall the title of this infographic, right, again data again the overall brief about those information has been considered in the upper segment, and gradually this portion where you see the circle is a set of representation, so you will automatically group this in one segment. And this is again helping you to address how we perceive, right, in terms of proximity. Again, this segment, when you see this portion, becomes one group representation. So again, the proximity is getting enabled here. And similarly in the lower segment, right, how the arrangement are being done in terms of representation creates another segment. So if you see the overall layout, you can see multiple groups here. So the first is the title as a one group, right? Second is the text, again the brief which talks about. Here again the circles which are associated to that, again this segment becomes another representation, right? Again the overall the Swanky diagram where you can see the overall representation, right, is another group which you will see. Again the circles which are in the lower segment becomes another representation. So again, I'm zooming in just to make you understand what are the details in this overall composition. Again, within this, there are multiple way how it has been represented, and this becomes a way of representation within. So there are two Swanky diagrams. So this becomes one group as a representation. This becomes another. So within this group, this your brain will easily identify. Okay, these two are different segments, right, based on the representation of shapes, right, and how the flow has been defined. So this is how the people who are doing data visualization can take the benefit of proximity in grouping things, although there may be multiple informations associated to that representation. But if you carefully look into the idea of proximity, it will help you to overall compose the information, even though the informations may have are maybe larger in terms of content. But if you carefully craft it using the principles of proximity, definitely the overall representation will be more, I would say, impactful and more resourceful. So next is again in terms of visual branding. So how visual branding also, especially in terms of logo design, also tries to address the idea of proximity while designing. So this is Channel 9 TV logo. It's a broadcasting channel in Australia designed by Sandgrove Designs. Okay, so it's a very interesting where you can see nine dots along with the tech like the number nine. And here, if you see this are two of the segments when you see the logo, right? And imagine if the designer have considered this in the proximity in this way, then the overall representation of logo would have been different. So again, this is the final logo which they have considered. Again, the proximity is happening, and you are associating these circles with this numerical number 9 because of the closeness of it. Okay, so since it was far, you will automatically presume that this is not related to this. So as I said in the previous discussion, proximity helps to create relationships. So somewhere or the other, if these things are far, it's very difficult for us to assume that this representation is associated with this. So the same thing is happening here. But when we put it in a well structured representation where the nearness is considered in a very meticulous way, automatically overall representation becomes a part of one single representation. So this is how the final logo looks, and you can see how, because of the proximity of such circles close to this numerical number 9, it helps you to understand that these two segments are together and they are creating some kind of visual relationship with each other, although the shapes are totally different. Yeah, same goes to our SBI logo, which is again if things are far apart, there might be issue in terms of representation, but this again makes sense when the overall brand mark and the logo type are thoughtfully crafted in such a way that it is close to this So over closeness also may impact the idea of the visual representation, again the visual weight, how it feels like from in terms of the weight distribution. So we as a designer, again we have to be very much careful how much we are considering the idea of proximity, and what are the measurements in terms of the balance, how we are trying to address, and how the weight distributions is happening between the logo type and the brand mark. Okay. Yes, so this is an ad campaign run by Nike for like how for the women's of the world, and this is where they have created an interesting composition, like with typography, the logo, right, and it's celebrating the 50 years, and again it shows how the idea of the compositions, right, although it's there are different segments, and together when you group it, it feels like it's associated to a particular brand. So here you can see how the image gives us the more dominance representation, right, and then this the text which is associated with it, right, who said woman was not meant to fly. And again this is although this has a strong cut here, but since it's associated in the overall composition, you will always connect this element associated to this text. And again the elements like the Nike 50-year celebration, right, and the presented by the Department of Nike Archives, right, again this all are although in a different segments, but when you consider this poster as a layout, you will always associate this overall composition to be represented as a whole. And this is a very interesting way how designers can take the benefit of such kind of representation in a more better way. Yeah, so next is again this again this is about like Osaka, who is again one of the renowned tennis player, right? And this again there's a strong contrast with this image and this, right? Now you are associating this segment as a group, right? Again this segment as a group, but as a whole you will tend to connect this image with this because of the proximity, because it's close to the overall representation. And when you see this, right, initially as we have learned about it, how we humans are very good in perceiving the visual figures, then comes the text. So the visual figure is more will be perceived in terms of hierarchy, then we'll read this, hit the ball as loud as you can. So again this logo is addressed, again the Nike logo has been part of this composition. They have carefully considered this uh, photo to have that brand correlation. So since in terms of shape, again you will relate with this and this, and this makes sense in that way how we compile the overall information. So now we will focus on the proximity where the idea of user interface plays, right? So I'm pretty sure most of you have filled form online, and during that process you will see many things, many fields are associated or grouped together, and that's purely based on the idea of proximity, because you will associate that informations, right, in that way, and it enables you to provide the correct informations if things are arranged in a group. So while you design any kind of questionnaires, and if you are planning to take data from the users online, so make sure you understand how you are grouping the overall information while you are taking, such that it benefits the users, and also it benefits you in a better way to get the data. Okay, so this is one of the screenshot from Google Workspace, and you can easily see how the idea of fields have been taken into consideration, right? So here you can see the series of icons of their overall the benefits which they give, right? And and again there is a grouping happening here in terms of the content. So let's get started, right? Create your Google Workspace account. So this are again grouped in one segment. And when you see this image here, so these are the fields which are associated, right? First name, last name, email address. Then you complete it using the button next. Again, this is very like this is purely based on how you are grouping it. So you will group this segment, filling the segment details in one segment and submitting in one, right? And brief about that here. So most of the like if you're designing any kind of Google form, so you have to also understand how you're briefing each of these groups. And based on that, it enables the users to create provide inputs based on your requirement. Okay. Yes, so primarily this most of the softwares which we use, right? The UI is inclined towards the idea of proximity to navigate us while we work on that particular space. So this is a screenshot of Adobe Illustrator application where most of the vector illustrations are being explored and for print and publications. And most of the designer uses this platform to design posters, logo, print publications, and maybe nowadays because of new features, now animations are also can be taken into consideration. So here you can see there are different grouping happening to navigate. So this is one segment. This is the toolbar where you use different functionality while you are trying to compose it. There is another segment now because of AI where it keep popping up just to help you navigate. So using the idea of vector, right, how you generate using AI. So even if you are trying to address any kind of theme color or any kind of composition anatomy, and you can directly go here and you utilize such kind of things and you create the AI version, AI developed version of that. And this is another segment which is again associated to artboard, right? Different features associated to it. And if you're adding colors, again the idea of colors has been projected here. So this all are happening in terms of groups. So this is one segment, right? This is the other segment which are associated to that. This is a pop-up segment which is again available nowadays, and these are the other rest of the attributes which are associated to this application. So if you are a software designer and if you're trying to design some kind of compositions with different features, right? Make sure you also understand how the overall compositions are divided, overall features are divided, and where it makes sense to keep it. Typically, you cannot randomly put features which are totally contrasting while if I am performing any kind of activity on that particular play, platform. So again, how we are, again, the idea of search is kept purposely here because you won't be searching while you are working, right? So if you're struggling somewhere, definitely you will go here and do rest of the things. Again, the close button, right, the minimize and the expand button are purposely kept here. The home button is kept here. So again, these are very carefully thought like process where you have to also understand how we behave and what kind of exposure we have based on the past experience. And with that, how do we use any kind of informations or tools, and which tool will be more impactful if kept in this segment or the other segment is another important thing. And that totally comes when you try to study your user behavior, under which you will try to explore different segments within user behaviors, and based on that you create some such kind of layouts. Again, these layouts are happening purely on the idea of proximity, and because of the proximity it's becoming more easy to consume, how and it's also becoming easy for me to navigate through different features. Yeah, so again, principles of proximity observed in architecture and interior design. So if you see this image, this interesting architecture, right, and it has beautiful contrasting elements to this. So again, how the idea of grouping is happening in terms of arrangement of the balcony, right, the overall space, the connection between these two segments, right, and based on that how even the rooms are being addressed. So this apartment seems to be different quite compared to this rest of the apartment, right? Again, the idea of grouping is again extended here, right? This has a larger balcony space, right? So this is again observed mostly in the architectural designs, how you are segregating different segments within that space, and is there any consistency, or is there any quite repetition, or is there the overall representation is quite modular in nature. So that also comes with the creative explorations, how an architect goes through that cycle, and through that there's always an opportunity to seek for interesting compositions or creative compositions or layouts, right? And while doing that, again, how the overall proximity is being attained, right? Understanding how the space is being divided. Yeah, so this is again a stadium picture, how within the stadium, again, their seat arrangements, seat allotments are considered, and based on that, you are given a ticket. So again, that's again the idea of proximity, how the overall crowd is divided based on the sitting arrangement, and how within the sitting arrangement, again, there's a space for people to pass through, and because of that, the idea of grouping again automatically happens. And this can be also observed in the theater halls, right? When you book seats, even in the airplane, if you're going for if you're using flight for your travel, right? Again, the seat arrangement are being addressed using the idea of principle of proximity. Okay. So now we are about to end this session, and we have went through multiple, I would say, explanation cases where we have tried to understand how proximity is very much important for visual designers to understand the overall composition, to create relationship, to create hierarchy, and how the elements associated to that can be taken into consideration to group things for easy communication, right, and better information flow. So the Gestalt's principles of proximity is a fundamental tool for visual designers, enabling them to organize elements in a way that foster clarity, efficiency, and aesthetic appeal. By grouping related items through spatial relationship, designers guide the viewer's perception, ensuring that the information is easily interpreted and understood, whether in digital interfaces like branding, which we have discussed, right? And UI like Apple website we have discussed, right? And print and publication, the examples which we looked into in terms of typography, how the arrangement is happening in terms of grids, like the column, right? 2 column, 3 column grids. And proximity is essential for creating intuitive and impactful things from the design perspective. So I'm pretty sure by now you have got some idea and how it's important in the overall composition, and how designer can take the benefit out of it. So thank you for your time, and I hope all of you have got some idea about proximity as a Gestalt's principles and why it's important. We'll end this segment here and continue with Pragnance as a Gestalt's principle in this in the other segment, which is part two. Thank you for your time.